My name is Agnes. I am 58 years old, and for the very first time in all my years, I was told I was not welcome at my own family's Thanksgiving table. I want you to picture this. For over 3 decades, the last Thursday in November meant my brother Franklin's house. The chaos of coats piled on the bed, the sound of the football game blending with kitchen laughter, the smell of roasting turkey, and the particular scent of my mother's pumpkin pie recipe that nobody else could ever quite get right. My role was mashed potatoes and listening. I was the one who would spend the whole afternoon sitting with my mother Helen, holding her hand, catching her up on things she might have forgotten, making sure her plate was full of soft, easy-to-eat things. That table, that noise, that tradition was my anchor in the world after I lost my husband Joseph. It was the one day I never felt alone. But last October, a conversation that started about my mother's care home expenses veered into a territory so ugly and so final, it ended with an ultimatum I could never have dreamed of hearing. Before I tell you how a simple discussion about monthly bills led to my permanent exile, I am truly curious to know where you are watching this from today. Maybe you are in a quiet kitchen like mine, or on a lunch break, or somewhere far away. If you have ever felt that your quiet contributions to your family were just expected, just part of the background noise, never truly seen or valued, then you might understand the quiet storm that was brewing inside me. If that feeling is familiar, I would be so grateful if you would tap that like button. And if you would like to stay with me for this whole journey, please consider subscribing. It means more than you know. To understand the magnitude of the fracture, you have to understand the quiet, desperate imbalance I had been living with for years. My husband Joseph, my sweet Joe, passed 8 years ago from a swift and cruel cancer. He was a practical gentleman, a high school teacher, and he left our affairs in good order. Our house in this quiet Milwaukee suburb was paid off. He left me a modest but carefully managed investment portfolio. It was not a fortune, but it was security. It allowed me to work part-time as a hospice nurse, a job that filled my soul even as it sometimes emptied my heart. My brother Franklin, 2 years my senior, had always cast a longer shadow. After our father passed, Franklin naturally, or so it seemed, stepped into the role of family patriarch. He was an accountant, a man who spoke in numbers and certainty. He took over all the arrangements for our mother Helen when it became clear she could no longer live alone. We found Maple Grove Senior Living, a lovely place not far from me. Franklin handled the contract. He would talk often and with a weary sigh about the staggering cost, the strain on his finances. He never asked me for money directly. Not at first. So I created my own solution. About 6 years ago, I set up a separate private login with Maple Grove's billing department. Every single month, like clockwork, I would log in and make a direct payment. This payment covered the difference between the standard room rate and the cost of the larger room with the garden view that Mom loved, where she could watch the birds. It also covered the additional 2 physical therapy sessions per week that kept her mobile and free from pain. This was several $100s a month. I never told Franklin. I told myself a story that felt noble. I was preserving his pride as the provider. I was ensuring my mother had dignity and comfort without causing family tension. I was the silent good daughter. The ghost in the financial machine. This silent subsidizing became my ritual, my secret act of love. I would think of my father who worked 2 jobs to give us a good childhood, and I felt I was honoring him. This went on for 6 long years. Then this past September, I received a generic email from Maple Grove about updating privacy policies. Scrolling down my eyes, caught a line item in a sample bill. It listed a monthly charge for a standard room that was significantly lower than what I understood Mom's room to cost. A cold trickle of dread started in my chest. I called the home, my voice carefully casual. I spoke to the manager, a wonderfully kind woman named Lorraine who had always been so good to Mom. I said I was just checking in on the billing details. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Oh, Mrs. Willard," she said gently, "there was a change made back in March. Your brother, Mr. Franklin, requested that your mother be moved to a standard room and that her physical therapy be reduced to just one session weekly." He cited family financial constraints. The world narrowed to the phone in my hand. March. It was now September. For 6 months I had been faithfully sending my monthly payment, the amount calculated for the premium room and full therapy. But for 6 months, my mother had been in a smaller, north-facing room with less care. The arithmetic was brutal and inescapable. The difference between what I was paying and what Franklin was now being charged was pure profit for him. It was not going to my mother's care. It was being siphoned away. When I next saw Franklin, I tried to broach the subject with the softest touch I could muster. "Franklin, I was looking over some of my own budgeting and I was just wondering how things are going with Maple Grove's invoices. Do you need any help?" He didn't even look up from his newspaper. "Agnes," he said, his voice a dismissive rumble, "you don't need to trouble yourself with these complexities. I have everything under control. This is my responsibility." His wife, my sister-in-law Miriam, was peeling apples at the sink. Her back was to me, but her shoulders were rigid. She said nothing. That moment right there was the first real crack, deep and structural. The crack that whispered that my care, my sacrifice, was not just invisible, but somehow an inconvenience. The truth I learned from Lorraine was a stone in my gut. I carried it with me for days, feeling its weight with every step. I could not bear the thought of my mother, who had loved her garden, confined to a darker space, who had found joy in the mobility her therapy gave her, now stiffening with neglect. The silent subsidy had become a weapon used against her. I knew I could not let this lie. I needed the unassailable facts. I drove to Maple Grove on a Tuesday morning when I knew Lorraine would be in. I sat in her sunny office with its photos of grandchildren and thank you cards. I showed her my driver's license and my bank statements, showing the consistent monthly transfers. Her expression shifted from professional warmth to deep, empathetic sorrow. Without my even asking, she printed everything. The official service alteration form signed by Franklin in March. The payment history showing my unwavering deposits and Franklin's single lower payments aligning with the reduced services. The evidence was a cold, clinical map of a betrayal. Armed with that folder, I went to Franklin's house that Sunday. The air was crisp, the kind of fall day that usually felt hopeful. Miriam answered the door, her smile not reaching her eyes. Franklin was ensconced in his leather armchair, the king of his domain. I did not raise my voice. I did not cry. I felt a strange, detached calm. I placed the folder on the coffee table between us. "Franklin," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "why would you do this to Mom? Why would you take the money I sent for her care and use it for something else?" He glanced at the papers and I watched his face. There was no shock, no guilt. His jaw tightened, his eyes turned flinty. He leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. "You went behind my back. You went digging into my business. After all I have sacrificed for this family." He did not deny the facts. Instead, he built a fortress of justification. Benjamin, his son, had gotten into some trouble with credit card debt after a failed online venture. Sylvia, his daughter in Chicago, was seeing a very expensive specialist for her anxiety. The economy was tough. And then he delivered the blow meant to be a knockout punch. "Mom agreed to it, Agnes. She understands we all have to make sacrifices. She is practical." He stood up, walked to his filing cabinet, and pulled out a single sheet of paper. It was a basic durable power of attorney for finances. At the bottom was my mother's signature. It was shaky, the letters uneven and sprawling, utterly unlike her neat handwriting from just a year before. It was dated during a period last winter when her confusion was pronounced, when she sometimes called me by her sister's name. She gave me full legal authority, he said, tapping the paper. This is binding. You had no right to interfere. You overstepped in a way I cannot overlook. Miriam finally spoke, her voice a pleading warble. Franklin is under so much pressure, Agnes. He is trying to hold everything together for everyone. We are all struggling. Benjamin, who had been lurking in the hallway, chimed in. Yeah, it's not like we are stealing. We are just managing. We will put her back in the nice room when things get better. I looked from one face to another, my brother, my sister-in-law, my nephew. The financial deception was a wound. But this manipulation of our mother's vulnerability, this gaslighting with a legal document signed in a moment of weakness, this was a massacre of trust. Then Franklin issued his decree. Your lack of faith is toxic, Agnes. Thanksgiving is for a unified family, a family that respects its head. You will not set foot in this house for the holiday unless you offer a sincere public apology. To me for your disrespect, to Miriam for causing her distress. And you will renounce in front of all of us any further involvement in Mom's financial affairs. Those are my terms. The week that followed was a haze of quiet despair. I moved through my routines at the hospice like a ghost, my mind replaying that scene on a loop. Then the invitation, or what felt like one. Miriam called, her voice artificially bright. Let's have a simple dinner, she said. Just us adults, no pressure. We need to fix this before the holidays. A desperate, lonely part of me, the little sister who still missed her big brother, clutched at that straw. Maybe, just maybe, reason would prevail. I baked a loaf of rosemary bread, Franklin's favorite, a tangible offering of peace. The dinner was a study in excruciating politeness. The air was thick with unsaid words. We spoke of the weather of a neighbor's new car. Franklin addressed his remarks to the tablecloth. After we finished the main course, Miriam brought out a store-bought pecan pie. As she was slicing it, Franklin pushed his dessert plate away. It scraped loudly on the table. He folded his hands and looked at me, his gaze impersonal, like I was a difficult employee. Agnes, we have discussed it further. Thanksgiving is in 17 days. The decision stands. You are not welcome in this home for the holiday unless you apologize. Specifically, you will apologize for undermining my authority, for sowing discord in this family, and for your profound lack of trust. You will acknowledge my role as the head of this family and my sole discretion in managing our mother's welfare. Once you have done that, we can discuss how you might contribute in appropriate ways going forward. Miriam stared intently at her slice of pie as if the walnuts held the secrets of the universe. Benjamin, who was now sitting at the table, gave a single solemn nod. Sylvia, patched in via speakerphone, added her voice. Just say you are sorry, Aunt Agnes. This is so silly. Let's just have a normal Thanksgiving. In that suspended moment, the last veil fell away. I saw them not as my family, but as a closed committee. They had convened, tried me in absentia, and were now presenting their verdict. My years of silent support, my love, my loyalty were not just worthless. They were a nuisance to be eradicated with an apology. A profound and icy calm settled over me, smothering the last ember of hope. I stood up slowly, the chair not making a sound on the carpet. I did not look at Franklin. My eyes found an old photograph on the shelf across the room, a black and white image of my parents, young and smiling with a boy of about 7, holding a baby. That baby was me. I walked to the front hall, took my coat from the hook, and stepped out into the cool night air. I closed the door softly behind me. The click of the latch was the most definitive sound I had ever heard. I drove home on autopilot. The streetlights were blurry streaks. When I got inside, I did not collapse. I did not weep. I felt eerily clear. I sat in Joseph's old armchair in the dark living room, wrapped in the patchwork quilt his mother had made. The cold certainty that had filled me at Franklin's table began to crystallize into a plan. This was not about one act of betrayal with Mom's money. My mind, now freed from the need to pretend everything was fine, began connecting a lifetime of dots. There was the $5,000 loan for their new roof after a storm. Franklin had called it a temporary bridge. That was 7 years ago. Not a word about repayment since. There was the time he lamented that Benjamin could not get a decent cell phone plan because of his poor credit. Would I mind adding him to mine? Just for a little while. That was 4 years ago. I was still paying for his line. There was the Amazon Prime account. I had mentioned a book I ordered once, and Miriam had said how convenient it was. Franklin had said, "Why don't we all just use yours? We will give you cash for our orders." They never did. There was Benjamin's car insurance. After 2 at-fault accidents, his premiums were astronomical. Franklin had appealed to me, the responsible one with a spotless record, to put the policy in my name, with them reimbursing me. The reimbursement stopped after 3 months. I had let it slide each time, telling myself it was for family, it was not a big deal. It kept the peace. I saw it now with horrifying clarity. I was not a sister. I was a utility. A silent, reliable financial utility. The dependable, childless widow with a paid-off house and a nest egg. My role in the family ecosystem was to be drained quietly and without complaint. I got up, turned on the kitchen light, and took out a fresh, yellow legal pad. At the top I wrote one word: tethers. Then, with methodical precision, I began to list every single financial and logistical strand that connected my life to theirs. This was not a list made in rage. It was an audit, a surgical map for my own emancipation. 1. The family cell phone plan. Primary account holder: Agnes Willard. Lines: Agnes Franklin, Miriam Benjamin. 2. The premium cable internet and streaming bundle. Service address: Franklin's home. Billing: credit card mine. 3. The Amazon Prime annual membership. Registered to my email, my card. 4. Benjamin's auto insurance policy, policyholder: Agnes Willard. Vehicle: Benjamin's. My address was the policy address. 5. The authorized payer status on my mother's Maple Grove account. 6. A smaller, older whole life insurance policy my father had taken out on my mother decades ago. Franklin was the primary beneficiary. I was the contingent beneficiary, a fact I remembered, but Franklin likely had forgotten. I stared at the list. These were the chains. Lightweight, almost invisible chains woven from guilt, obligation, and love, but chains nonetheless. My path forward was not to yell or to plead or to negotiate. It was to pick up a pair of financial bolt cutters and snip every single one. I woke the next morning before dawn. I felt a strange sense of purpose. I dressed carefully in a crisp blouse and slacks, as if I were going to a very important meeting. I made a pot of strong coffee and carried it to my small home office. I arranged my laptop, my phone, my list, and a pen on the desk. The first light of day was just coloring the sky outside the window. My first call was to our wireless carrier. I navigated the automated system, entered my account PIN, and waited for a representative. A young man named David answered. I verified my identity thoroughly. "Yes, I would like to cancel my family plan effective today," I said, my voice steady. He asked the standard questions. Was I switching services? No. Was I aware all lines would be deactivated? Yes, I am. Do you want to transfer ownership of any of the other lines? No, thank you. I want to close the entire account. There was a pause. He processed the request. He confirmed the account was scheduled for termination. The lines would go dark by end of business day. He read me a confirmation number. I wrote it down neatly on my legal pad. Thank you, David. Have a good day. Next, I opened a browser window. I logged into the account for the cable and streaming services. I clicked through to the cancellation page. A chat window popped up instantly, an automated bot trying to offer me discounts. I typed, I wish to cancel all services immediately. Please confirm. A human agent joined. We went through the steps. Final confirmation. The services were terminated. I took a screenshot of the confirmation screen. My third call was to the auto insurance company. This one was harder. The agent, a woman named Susan, was concerned. Mrs. Willard, if we cancel this policy effective immediately, the registered owner of the vehicle will have no coverage. Any driving would be illegal and financially catastrophic in an accident. I understand that completely, Susan, I said. Please proceed with the cancellation. I am no longer able to maintain this policy for him. She paused, then processed it. I have the cancellation confirmation number for you. She read it out. I thanked her and hung up. Then the most critical call. To Maple Grove. I asked for Lorraine. Agnes, good morning, she said, her voice warm with recognition. Lorraine. I said I need to make several significant changes today, and I need your help. First, please remove me immediately as an authorized payer on my mother Helen Willard's main account. From this moment forward, all invoices are to be sent solely and directly to my brother Franklin at his address. Do not accept any payment from me on that account. Second, I am instructing you as my mother's daughter and with my power of attorney for health care, which you have on file, to move my mother back to her previous room, the one with the garden view in the magnolia wing, and to reinstate her physical therapy to 3 sessions per week beginning today. I will be setting up a new private account with Maple Grove. I will be the only person on this account. This account will be used exclusively to pay the difference between the standard room rate and the cost of that room, and for the additional therapy sessions. Please have the paperwork ready. I will be there this afternoon to sign it and to visit my mother. Lorraine was quiet for a long moment. I could hear her keyboard clicking. I understand, Agnes. She finally said, her voice firm and respectful. We will take care of all of it immediately. I will have everything prepared for you. My final call was to the insurance company that held the small whole life policy. I answered their security questions. I requested a beneficiary change form. I removed myself as contingent beneficiary and named a local nonprofit, the Elder Kindness Project, in my place. I asked them to email me the forms, which I signed and electronically returned before noon. By lunchtime it was done. I sat back in my chair. The silence in the house was not empty. It was vast. I felt a fatigue so deep it was cellular, as if I had just run a marathon I had been training for my whole life without knowing it. And underneath that fatigue, like the first green shoot after a forest fire, was a tiny, fragile sense of space. A space that belonged only to me. The reactions began as a trickle and became a flood. The first call came a little after 2 in the afternoon. Franklin's number flashed on my screen. I let it ring. His voicemail was brusque, annoyed. Agnes, my cell phone is dead. Something is wrong with the account. Call the company and straighten it out. Call me back. An hour later, another call. This one was hotter. Agnes, what is going on? The TV is out, all the channels, the internet is down. Did you do something? Fix it. Then Miriam called, her message flustered and confused. Agnes. Honey, I was trying to order some things for Thanksgiving and my Amazon Prime is not working. It says my membership is expired. Did your credit card expire? Can you check Benjamin's call came through around 3:30? His voice was a sharp, angry bark. My insurance company just called me. They said my policy is canceled. What the hell? Aunt Agnes, are you trying to screw me over? By 4 p.m. My phone was a persistent buzzing paperweight. 15 missed calls, then 20. The voicemail icon showed a full inbox. The tenor of the messages shifted from confusion and irritation to outright panic. Franklin's messages grew increasingly unhinged. Agnes, pick up Maple Grove, just called me. They are talking about moving Mom and charging me thousands more. They said you told them to. You cannot legally do this. This is financial abuse. Call me back now. I listened to every single message one after another as the afternoon light faded into a deep blue dusk. I did not feel sorrow. I did not feel glee. I felt a clinical detachment, as if I were a scientist observing the death throes of a destructive organism. This was the sound of unexamined privilege meeting an immovable boundary. This was the sound of a system shutting down. At 5:30, with the room fully dark save for the glow of my laptop, I composed a single email. The subject line was regarding financial matters. I addressed it to Franklin, Miriam, and Benjamin. The body was devoid of salutation or emotion. It was a list. The family wireless plan has been terminated. Your lines are inactive as of today. The cable internet and streaming services at your address have been canceled. The Amazon Prime membership registered to me is canceled. The auto insurance policy for Benjamin's vehicle, which was in my name, has been terminated. I am no longer an authorized payer on our mother's primary account at Maple Grove Senior Living. You, Franklin, are now the sole responsible party for the base care invoice. I have made separate direct arrangements with Maple Grove to cover the cost of her room upgrade and additional physical therapy sessions. This is a private matter between myself and the facility. All joint or interconnected financial arrangements are now dissolved. This is effective immediately and is not open for discussion. Do not contact me by phone regarding these matters. For emergencies concerning our mother's health and safety, only you may contact me via this email address. I read it over once, then I clicked send. My phone, which had been silent for a full 3 minutes, immediately lit up and began to vibrate again. Call number 25. I watched Franklin's name flash on the screen. I reached over, picked up the phone, and turned it completely off. The sudden absolute silence was profound. It was the sound of a door not slamming, but sealing shut. That Thanksgiving Day arrived bright and cold. I did not spend it weeping in my empty house. I woke early, put on a soft sweater, and went to my kitchen. I roasted a small turkey breast just for me. I made a single serving of my famous mashed potatoes, a small dish of green bean casserole, and a little cranberry sauce. I packed it all carefully into a beautiful picnic basket, along with a single slice of the pumpkin pie I had made using my mother's recipe. I drove the familiar route to Maple Grove. Lorraine had been true to her word. My mother was back in her sun-filled room overlooking the winter garden. A small table for two had been set up by the window. I laid out our meal. I helped Mom into her chair. She was quiet, her eyes sometimes clouded, sometimes clear. I served us both. Here you go, Mom. Just like always. She took a bite of the mashed potatoes. A slow smile spread across her face, a smile that reached her eyes. "Oh, Agnes," she said, her voice thin but present. "These are perfect, just perfect." She patted my hand. "You are such a good girl." We ate in peaceful quiet, watching the bare branches of the trees trace patterns against the sky. It was without a doubt the most honest and loving Thanksgiving I had celebrated in over a decade. There was no performance, no tension, no unspoken rules. There was just a mother and a daughter sharing a meal. The healing that followed was not a sudden miracle. It was a slow, deliberate reconstruction of a life. I made an appointment with a fee-only financial advisor, a serious woman named Patricia, who looked over my portfolio and my budget and helped me create a plan that was for me for my future with no secret drains. I found a support group that met at the local library, a circle of women of a certain age who were navigating the complicated waters of family estrangement, aging parents, and rediscovering themselves. I did not speak much at first. I listened. And in listening, I learned my story was not a strange, shameful anomaly. It was a pattern. That knowledge was a balm. I picked up more hours at the hospice. The work was emotionally demanding. but it was real. I held hands, I listened to stories, I offered comfort. The gratitude I received was explicit, spoken heartfelt. It filled a different, deeper well. I did not reconcile with Franklin. Miriam sent a series of emails over the months that followed. They cycled through stages: hurt, accusation, attempted guilt, and finally, a brittle sort of pleading for normalcy. I replied to each one with polite, unyielding clarity. My decisions are final. My boundaries are for my well-being. I wish you well, but I will not be revisiting this. The family I had spent a lifetime trying to belong to was a phantom. In letting it go, I found the solid ground of myself beneath my feet. Agnes, not just a sister, not just an aunt, not a bank. A woman who gardens, who is good at her job, who values peace, and who is learning day by day what it means to be free. I learned that sometimes the most powerful act of love you can offer yourself, and even the memory of what family is supposed to be, is a calm, unshakable no. It is not about anger or revenge. It is about carefully, methodically removing your pieces from a game where the rules were designed for you to lose, where your only value was what you could provide. The silence that comes after you walk away, after you stop the noise of their demands and your own compliance, that silence is not a void. It is fertile ground. It is the space where you finally hear your own thoughts. It is the room you need to remember the person you were before you started folding yourself into smaller and smaller shapes to fit into the cramped box of someone else's expectations. My mother's room is warm. The afternoon sun slants across the floor. Her hand, thin and veined, is resting in mine. The phone in my pocket is silent, has been for months now, and for the first time in decades. So is the relentless, anxious noise in my head. I sit with her in this quiet, and I wonder with a feeling that is not fear, but curiosity, what will grow in all this new, wide-open space. This has been my story. I have shared it with you because I believe these quiet reckonings are more common than we talk about. I often reflect on the lines we draw, or the lines we finally stop letting others cross. Where is that line for you between family obligation and self-preservation? Have you ever reached a point where the cost of keeping the peace became too high for your own soul? If you feel comfortable, I would be deeply touched if you shared your own reflections or experiences in the comments below. Your stories help us all feel less alone. If this narrative resonated with you, if it touched something in your own life, please give this video a like. It truly helps others find it. And if you would like to join me for more conversations about navigating life's difficult transitions, finding our strength in later chapters, and building a life of authentic peace, please hit that subscribe button and share this with someone in your life who might need this message today. From my heart to yours, I wish you courage. I wish you clarity, and above all, I wish you your own profound and peaceful quiet. Thank you for listening.